There is a certain kind of person who never seems to get played. They sense a lie before it fully leaves someone's mouth. They catch the hidden motive 3 steps before it shows itself. And while everyone else is walking straight into the trap, they are already 3 feet to the side, watching it happen to someone else. So here's the real question. Were they born this way? Or did they simply learn something the rest of us were never taught? The answer is not intelligence. It is not confidence. It is not even experience. The answer is attention, the ability to see what everyone else is too busy, too emotional, or too trusting to notice. And once that switch turns on inside you, it does not turn off again, ever. Machiavelli spent his life inside rooms where one wrong read of a person could end a career or end a life. He watched princes smile at men they were already planning to destroy. He watched allies swear loyalty the same week they were quietly negotiating with the enemy. And out of everything he witnessed, one idea kept repeating itself. People are rarely what they appear to be. They are what their pattern eventually proves them to be. When Cesare Borgia rose to power, Machiavelli studied him closely, not because Borgia was loved, but because Borgia understood something almost no one around him did, that appearances can be built, but behavior under pressure cannot be faked forever. And that single distinction is exactly what we're going to train in the next 18 minutes. 10 lessons, each one sharper than the last, each one built to make sure you are never the person left standing there afterward, wondering how you missed it. So if you're ready to actually see people instead of just hoping the best about them, let's begin. Lesson 1. Stop trusting words before you've tested them. Words are the cheapest thing a person can offer you. Anyone can sound loyal for 5 minutes. Anyone can sound respectful during a job interview. Anyone can sound caring in a message they typed in 10 seconds. But sounding a certain way and being that way are 2 completely different things. And the gap between them is exactly where most people get hurt. Because behavior is expensive to fake, and words are free. Someone can tell you they respect your time and still show up 40 minutes late every single time. Someone can tell you they've got your back and vanish the second things get difficult. Someone can praise you loudly in front of others and compete against you quietly the moment you're not looking. And if you are only listening to the words, you will miss every one of these signals, because your brain wants to believe the nice version. But reality doesn't care what sounds good. It only cares what actually happens. So before you hand someone your trust completely, watch how they treat a waiter who can't do anything for them. That single moment tells you more than 100 conversations ever could. This is lesson 1 for a reason. Everything else we cover tonight depends on you already knowing to check the behavior first. Lesson 2. Once you stop trusting words, start asking what the behavior is actually for. This is where it goes one level deeper. Now that you're watching actions instead of listening to words, ask the harder question. What does this person actually gain from this? Most people don't announce their real intentions, not because they're evil, but because revealing the motive usually kills the outcome they're going for. Someone wants approval, so they perform kindness. Someone wants control, so they perform concern. Someone wants access to you, so they perform friendship. And none of this makes them a villain. It just makes them human. Machiavelli called this reading beneath the appearance. A ruler could look merciful while being ruthless underneath, or look weak while quietly holding every ounce of real power in the room, and the same principle plays out at your dinner table. Someone can support your success out loud while secretly hoping you fail, because your progress makes them feel small. So the next time someone becomes unusually warm, right when they need something from you, ask that one question and let the silence answer it. Not because you should assume the worst about everyone, but because the question alone will show you things 100 compliments never would. Lesson 3. Control your emotions before you judge anyone, because emotion is the fastest way to lose the read you just built. Now you're watching behavior, and you're asking what it's for, but none of that works if your emotions are running the analysis. The fastest way to misread a person is to judge them while you're angry, attached, jealous, or desperate. In those states, your brain isn't looking for truth. It's looking for relief. And that's exactly when people miss the most obvious warning signs. A person stays in a disrespectful situation because leaving feels scarier than staying. A friend keeps defending someone who's lied to them 5 times because the history feels too heavy to walk away from. Emotion creates blind spots, and blind spots don't feel like blind spots. They feel like loyalty. They feel like love. They feel like giving someone one more chance. Machiavelli knew that emotional people are the easiest people to steer, because emotional reactions are predictable. If someone knows what makes you angry, they can provoke you on command. If someone knows your insecurity, they can move your decisions without you ever noticing the hand on the wheel. So the clever move isn't suppressing what you feel, it's pausing before you act on it. Because when the emotion settles even slightly, the pattern comes back into focus, sharper than before. Lesson 4. Take the small red flags seriously, because this is where the pattern first becomes visible. Nothing catastrophic happens overnight. It always starts small. A tiny lie that seemed harmless. A boundary crossed just once. A comment that felt slightly off but got brushed away because confronting it felt like overreacting. And this is exactly how people end up years deep in situations they swore they'd never tolerate. Small behavior is a rehearsal for bigger behavior. Someone who casually lies about something minor today is training themselves to lie about something major later. Someone who tests how much disrespect you'll absorb is quietly mapping out how far they can go. Manipulation rarely opens with cruelty. It opens with testing your patience, testing your standards, testing whether you'll actually enforce the boundary you claim to have. Machiavelli gave this same warning to rulers who ignored small uprisings until they became full rebellions. By the time the fire was visible, the smoke had already been sitting there for weeks. So watch how someone reacts the very first time they don't get their way, because that reaction matters more than any dramatic betrayal ever will. Lesson 5. Talk less, because silence is what makes the small red flags surface on their own. Most people walk into every conversation trying to prove something, how smart they are, how successful, how funny, how important, and, while they're busy performing, they miss everything valuable happening right in front of them. Because when you talk, people learn about you. But when you listen, you learn about them. Someone exposes their insecurity through constant bragging. Someone exposes bitterness through a sarcastic little comment they think went unnoticed. Someone exposes dishonesty because the same story keeps changing shape every time it's told, and you only catch these details once you stop racing to fill every silence yourself. This was one of the quiet advantages of the advisors who survived the longest in Machiavelli's world. They weren't the loudest voices in the room. They were the ones who let everyone else talk first, and just let that sit for a second. The most dangerous person in any room is rarely the one talking the most. So the next time you're in a conversation, let the pause stretch a little longer than feels comfortable, because that extra second is often exactly when the real answer slips out. Unscripted. Lesson 6. Watch what happens the moment things stop going someone's way, because control is easy. Losing control is where the truth lives. Here, the stakes climb higher, because up until now, you've been reading people during ordinary moments, and ordinary moments are easy to perform. The real test only begins once something actually goes wrong. Stress strips the performance away fast. It exposes impatience. It exposes selfishness. It exposes the parts of someone that stay hidden behind good manners during comfortable days. Someone can seem respectful right up until they're frustrated. Someone can seem loyal right up until loyalty becomes inconvenient. And then suddenly you're looking at a completely different person. Machiavelli wrote about rulers who looked powerful for years, only to fall apart the moment fortune turned against them, because strength that only exists during good times was never real strength. It was decoration. So watch how someone behaves the moment a situation slips out of their control. Do they turn aggressive? Do they start blaming everyone around them? Or do they stay level while everything is falling apart? That single moment tells you more than months of easy conversation ever could. And remember, pressure exposes you too. So treat every hard moment as information, not just an inconvenience. Lesson 7. Learn to spot envy, because it is the one emotion people will almost never admit to your face. Very few people will ever tell you out loud that they're jealous of you. Instead, envy hides behind fake enthusiasm, behind a joke that quietly undercuts your win, behind a friend who goes strangely quiet right when your life starts improving, and if you're not paying attention, you will completely miss it. Envy doesn't explode, it erodes. Slowly, from the inside of a relationship, someone can smile at your success while secretly hoping it slows down. Someone can congratulate you while feeling smaller every time you win. And this doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from people who supported you sincerely once, until your growth started to feel like a comparison they never asked for. Human beings are wired to measure themselves against each other. So when someone starts feeling left behind, envy grows quietly in that gap. Watch for the person who can't quite celebrate your wins without changing the subject. Watch for the one who tries to outdo your good news the second you share it. Because once you can see this pattern clearly, a lot of confusing behavior from certain people in your life suddenly starts to make complete sense. Lesson 8. Stop needing everyone to approve of you, because approval is the leash people use once they've studied you closely enough. The fastest way to lose your own judgment is to make other people's opinions the center of every decision you make. The moment approval becomes the priority, honesty becomes the first thing you sacrifice. You stay quiet when you should speak up. You tolerate things you should be rejecting. You agree with things you don't actually believe. And slowly, without noticing, you stop thinking independently at all. Machiavelli understood something uncomfortable here. The need for approval is a form of vulnerability. The moment someone knows you're afraid of being disliked, they now have leverage over you. They can pressure you, guilt you, or quietly steer your choices just by threatening to withdraw their approval. And here's the part almost nobody says out loud. You were never actually in danger of losing them. You were only in danger of losing the version of yourself that needed them to stay. And the moment you stop chasing universal approval, your perception sharpens immediately, because respect and being liked are not the same currency. Respect comes from consistency and honesty. Being liked often comes from comfort and agreement. And clever people learn to choose respect, even when it costs them a little likability along the way. Lesson 9. Watch what people prioritize, not what they claim to value. Because this is where every earlier lesson finally connects. Anyone can talk about their values. Anyone can describe how loyal they are, how honest, how family-oriented. But priorities aren't revealed through speeches. They're revealed through where someone's time, energy, and effort actually go. Someone can say family means everything to them and still never make time for the people they claim to love most. Someone can talk endlessly about honesty and still hide the one truth that would actually be inconvenient to say out loud. If you want to know what someone actually prioritizes, don't listen to their explanation, watch their pattern. If someone is always too busy for you but never too busy for the things they enjoy, that tells you everything. If someone abandons their principles, the second real pressure shows up. That tells you exactly what they worship, which is usually convenience. And this lesson isn't only about other people. It applies to you as well, because your own daily choices expose your real priorities far more honestly than your intentions ever could. Lesson 10. Train yourself to notice absolutely everything, because this is the lesson that ties the other 9 into one single instinct. Most people move through their entire day half awake. They look without truly seeing, they hear without truly registering, and they forget the small details almost the second they happen. But the people who never get fooled train themselves completely differently. They slow down mentally even when everything around them is moving fast. They notice the pause before someone answers a question. They notice the shift in someone's tone the second a certain topic comes up. They notice when a story doesn't quite match the version told a week earlier, and these details are always available. Most people just never focus long enough to catch them. A reactive person only responds to what's obvious in the moment. An observant person connects the pattern across weeks, sometimes months. Machiavelli spent his entire career studying exactly this: how power really moves, not how it announces itself. And here's the part worth remembering long after this video ends. This skill isn't a talent you're born with. It's a habit you build. It grows every single time you choose to actually notice instead of rushing past a moment. And once that awareness sharpens, Your decisions sharpen along with it. Life doesn't get simpler, but your perception gets a lot more accurate, and that alone puts you ahead of almost everyone else in the room. So take a second and actually sit with everything you just heard. This was never about becoming cold or suspicious of every person who walks into your life. It was about becoming precise, about learning to see people clearly instead of seeing the version you were hoping was real. You learned how words can be shaped, how motives hide underneath kindness, how emotion can quietly distort your judgment, and how the smallest patterns eventually reveal the biggest truths. Most mistakes in life don't come from a lack of intelligence. They come from moving too fast, assuming too quickly, and filling the gaps with hope instead of evidence. And when you finally slow down, everything starts to look different. You start noticing consistency. You start recognizing the cycles people repeat. And you start understanding who is actually stable in your life and who was only ever temporary. Machiavelli's read on human nature was never rooted in hate. It was rooted in clarity, seeing things exactly as they are instead of how we wish they were. And once you carry that mindset with you, you move through life differently. You speak less and observe more. You react less and understand more. You trust slower. But when you finally do trust someone, it actually means something because it was earned, not assumed, and no one gets to fool you twice. If even one of these 10 lessons hit a little too close to home, that's usually the sign it was worth hearing, so take a second, hit like on this video, send it to the one person who actually needs to hear this today, and subscribe if you want more of this kind of thinking. Because the more clearly you understand people, the less power confusion has over your life. And now I want to know, which one of these 10 lessons hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments. Stay sharp, stay aware, and never stop paying attention to what's actually in front of you.